You picked up your phone to check one thing. Maybe a text, maybe the time, maybe just a quick look at your notifications before you got back to whatever you were doing. 45 minutes later, you're watching a video about a topic you have never thought about before. Your original reason for opening the app is completely forgotten, and somewhere underneath the scroll, there's a low, familiar feeling. Not quite satisfaction, not quite boredom, just a kind of hollow restlessness that, by now, you have learned to treat by opening the app again. I want to say something clearly before we go any further, because this video is not going to work if you don't hear this first. This is not a willpower problem. It is not a discipline problem. It is not a generational weakness or a character flaw or evidence that people used to be more focused than you. What is happening to your attention, your motivation, and your capacity to sit with ordinary life without reaching for stimulation is the entirely predictable result of your brain's oldest reward system being deliberately, precisely, and profitably exploited by some of the most sophisticated behavioral engineers on the planet. And once you understand exactly how that exploitation works, not the pop science version, not the just put your phone in another room version, you will never look at your screen the same way again. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what social media does to your dopamine system, why the standard advice about screen time almost never works, and 6 specific, sequenced steps grounded in neuroscience and behavioral psychology for rewiring your brain's reward circuitry without white-knuckling your way through it. We're going to move through each step carefully, but I want you to pay special attention when we reach step 3, because step 3 is where most dopamine detox attempts collapse, and not for the reason people think. Stay with me to step 3. What you understand there will determine whether anything else in this video actually works. Let's start with what dopamine actually is, because the version most people have been taught is almost entirely wrong. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That is the pop science shorthand, and it has caused more confusion about this topic than almost anything else. Dopamine is not what you feel when something feels good. Dopamine is what you feel when you are about to get something good, or when you think you might. It is the chemical of anticipation, of seeking, of the moment just before the reward, not the reward itself. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent decades separating what he called the wanting system from the liking system, and what he found changed the way behavioral scientists understand addiction entirely. You can want something desperately and not enjoy it at all. The wanting and the liking are driven by completely different neurological mechanisms, and the wanting system, the dopamine system, does not have an off switch. This is why you can scroll for an hour, feel nothing particularly pleasurable, and still not be able to stop. The dopamine isn't rewarding you for what you found, it's keeping you searching for what you haven't found yet. Now, here is where the engineering comes in. In the 1950s, behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered something that would become one of the most important and most exploited findings in the history of neuroscience. He found that animals and humans do not become most addicted to rewards that are guaranteed. They become most addicted to rewards that are unpredictable. A lever that delivers food every time it is pressed produces moderate, stable behavior. A lever that delivers food sometimes, randomly, unpredictably, with no discernible pattern, produces compulsive, relentless pressing that the animal will continue long after the food has stopped coming entirely. He called it the variable reward schedule, and it is the architectural foundation of every major social media platform ever built. The slot machine was not a metaphor that critics invented to describe social media. It was the explicit design model that the engineers used to build it. Ozza Raskin, the designer who invented the infinite scroll, has said publicly that he built a slot machine, and that he is sorry. Every time you pull down to refresh your feed, You are pulling a lever. Every notification is a variable reward. Every like, every comment, every piece of content that is sometimes interesting and sometimes not is the unpredictable pellet that keeps the pressing going. But here is what the slot machine model doesn't fully capture. And this is where the real damage happens. Dr. Anna Lemke, psychiatrist at Stanford University and author of Dopamine Nation, describes what happens to the brain under conditions of chronic dopamine overstimulation is a recalibration of the baseline. Your brain is always trying to maintain equilibrium. When something produces a surge of dopamine, pleasure, excitement, stimulation, your brain compensates by reducing its sensitivity to dopamine. It tilts the scale back toward neutral. Under normal conditions, this is healthy regulation, but under conditions of constant, high-frequency stimulation, the kind that a smartphone with social media delivers, dozens or hundreds of times per day, the recalibration becomes permanent. Your baseline drops. The ordinary world, a conversation, a walk, a book, a meal, a moment of quiet, no longer produces enough dopamine to register as interesting. Not because those things have changed, because your brain's capacity to respond to them has been systematically downgraded. This is why people who spend years in high-stimulation digital environments often describe ordinary life as feeling flat, colorless, slow. Not because they are depressed, though the overlap is significant, but because the instrument they use to experience pleasure has been retuned to a frequency that ordinary life can no longer reach. If any of this is landing, if you are watching this and recognizing something you felt but couldn't name, like this video right now. And write in the comments, "I want my brain back." Because that is exactly what this is about. Not about hating your phone, not about moral panic over technology, about reclaiming the neurological capacity to actually experience your own life. Write it. I want my brain back. I'll be reading every single one. Now, let's talk about what actually works, because the standard advice almost never does. Step 1. Understand that restriction alone is not recovery. The reason cold turkey digital detoxes fail at such high rates is not because people lack commitment. It is because restriction without addressing the underlying neurological mechanism simply creates a state of deprivation that the dopamine system interprets as emergency and responds to with intensified craving. You don't rewire a reward system by starving it. You rewire it by redirecting it. The goal of everything that follows is not to use your phone less through willpower. It is to rebuild competing reward pathways, real ones, analog ones, slower ones, until the phone becomes less necessary because your nervous system has other ways to feel alive. Step 2. Map your triggers before you touch your habits. Before you change anything, spend 3 days noticing, not judging, just noticing the specific emotional states that precede each time you reach for your phone without intention. Boredom is the most common, but boredom is rarely just boredom. It is usually a thin surface over something else: discomfort, anxiety, loneliness, the low hum of a task you were avoiding. The phone is not the problem in these moments. It is the solution to a problem you have not yet named. Name the problem. Write it down. You cannot redirect a trigger you have not identified, and you cannot identify a trigger you have been trained to immediately anesthetize. Step 3, and this is the one I want you to hold carefully. Step 3 is lower the stimulation ceiling before you raise it again. Most people who attempt a dopamine reset make the same mistake. They remove the high stimulation input, the social media, the short-form video, the constant notifications, and immediately replace it with something they have decided is healthier: a podcast, an audiobook, a new hobby they pursue with the same frantic energy they brought to scrolling. This does not work, because the problem is not the content of the stimulation. The problem is the volume of it. Dr. Lemke's research suggests the genuine dopamine reset requires periods of what she calls radical presence, time with low or no external stimulation, where the brain is given the space to recalibrate its baseline without being immediately handed a replacement hit. This feels unbearable at first. The restlessness, the boredom, the low-level anxiety of having nothing incoming, these are withdrawal symptoms, literal neurological withdrawal, not metaphorical, not weakness. The research suggests that most people begin to feel the recalibration, the return of interest in ordinary things, the quieting of the restlessness, within 2 to 4 weeks of sustained lower stimulation. But only if they resist the urge to immediately fill the silence with something new. Step 4. Replace variable rewards with earned rewards. The dopamine system responds differently to rewards that follow effort than to rewards that arrive randomly. Exercise, creative work, learning a physical skill, finishing something difficult. These produce dopamine alongside endorphins and serotonin in a pattern that the brain registers as fundamentally different from the dopamine spike of a notification. The neurological signature of earned reward is more stable, more durable, and critically, does not require escalation. The walk you take today will feel as good as the walk you took last week. The scroll that satisfied you last week will not satisfy you today. Begin introducing one daily activity that requires effort and produces a result you can see or feel. Not for motivation, not for productivity, for the specific neurological purpose of rebuilding a reward pathway that does not demand a screen. Step 5. Restructure your environment, not your willpower. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler, Nobel laureate, architect of nudge theory, spent his career demonstrating that human behavior is more responsive to environmental design than to conscious intention. Willpower is a depletable resource. Environment is a persistent one. The phone on your nightstand will be checked. The phone in another room will be checked less, not because you decided to check it less, but because the friction of retrieving it is often just enough to interrupt the automaticity of the habit. Design your environment for the behavior you want, not the behavior you are trying to stop. Remove apps from your home screen. Use grayscale mode. Charge your phone outside your bedroom. These are not willpower hacks. They are friction engineering. And friction, applied correctly, changes behavior more reliably than resolve. Step 6. Rebuild your tolerance for boredom. This is the final step and the one that makes everything else sustainable. Boredom has a function. In the neurological literature on creativity and problem-solving, the default mode network, the brain state associated with mind-wandering, daydreaming, unfocused rest, is now understood to be one of the most important cognitive states a human being can occupy. It is where insight happens, where memory consolidates, where the brain processes experience rather than simply accumulating it, where the self, the coherent, continuous narrative of who you are and what you want, gets quietly assembled in the background of an unoccupied moment. Social media has made boredom feel like a problem to be solved. It is not. It is the condition under which your brain does some of its most essential work. Begin tolerating 30 seconds of it, then a minute, then 5, not as a discipline exercise, as a neurological one. You are relearning how to be alone with your own mind, and your own mind, given the chance, is more interesting than the feed. 6 steps. Understand that restriction is not recovery. Map your triggers before you touch your habits. Lower the stimulation ceiling before you raise it. Replace variable rewards with earned ones. Restructure your environment instead of your willpower, and rebuild your tolerance for boredom, which is not emptiness, it is the space where you begin to exist again. The platforms that have your attention were built by teams of engineers, psychologists, and behavioral scientists who spent years optimizing for one outcome: keeping you on the screen for one more second. You are not fighting an app, you are fighting a system designed by experts to be more compelling than your own intentions. But here is what those engineers know and don't want you to know. The dopamine system is plastic. It is changeable. It was shaped by your environment, and it can be reshaped by a different one. You are not stuck with the brain that the algorithm made. You are stuck with it only as long as you keep feeding it what the algorithm designed it to crave. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe to this channel, because every week we go deeper into the psychology of how your mind actually works and how to work with it instead of against it. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. It is also the thing everyone else is trying to take. Decide, starting today, that it belongs to you.